On today's show, the news that we didn't want to hear, but really should have seen coming. TJ Oshie to the LTIR.
Your Locked On Capitals, your daily podcast on the Washington Capitals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, hello and welcome into this edition of Locked On Capitals. I'm so glad you decided to join me today. As always, this podcast is free and available on all the major platforms, including the SiriusXM app and on YouTube. And I want to thank you for making this your first listen each and every day. My name is Dan Holme. I've covered the Capitals for the last 3 seasons for Locked On and various other outlets before that. I'm also the host of the weekly show called The Capitals Minute Cast, available wherever you find your podcasts. You can find me on Twitter. It's at DanCaps218. You can find the show on Twitter. It's at Locked On Caps. And the best way that you can help grow the show is to subscribe to Locked On Capitals on YouTube and comment anything down below. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a free 3-week trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So in this edition of Locked On Capitals, we talk about that news that we really didn't want to hear, but we really saw it coming. I think all of us as Capitals fans knew that TJ Oshie was going to spend this coming season on the LTIR. This is a guy that's had issues with his back for the last few seasons. And he's also the guy that said he did not want to come back to the team unless there were any promises made that he wouldn't have to go through what he has gone through last season and the last few seasons. And as it turns out, the Capitals medical staff view it as that he is not ready to go and will be spending the season on the LTIR. What is that going to mean for the Capitals? We'll talk about that a little bit later. We'll talk about Spencer Carbery's thoughts on the new additions to this team and where he sees them all fitting in. And then in the final segment, we'll talk about Todd Nelson and his thoughts on some of the young Capitals players. But just to get it going here, that was the news that broke this evening, was that TJ Oshie will not be joining the Capitals on the active roster and will be on the long-term injured reserve. Again, this was something that we kind of saw take place on July 1st when it was a free agency and the Capitals acquired Andrew Mangiapane. And it kind of, you saw that based on the amount that he was getting paid and how much TJ Oshie was getting paid, those kind of things, it made sense on why things happened the way they did. So not too much of a surprise. I think that in the back of my mind, I was kind of thinking that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe TJ Oshie will at least give it a go. But is that ultimately what we want as Capitals fans? Do we want TJ Oshie going out there kind of half-cocked, or would we rather have a guy out on the ice that's going to help contribute to this team? Now, one of the things I've said on this show for quite some time is I just wish, I wish it didn't have to wait until the night before the formal start of training camp. You got to think that maybe the Capitals would have handled things a little bit differently. So, I don't fault TJ Oshie. I don't fault the Capitals medical staff. It's just, I think, it was kind of known that he wasn't going to join the team. Why did you have to wait? Or why did the Capitals medical staff have to wait until the night before the start of training camp? And, the interesting thing is TJ Oshie was, on that podcast here recently. I think it was the Empty Netters podcast, if memory serves. And they asked him about it. They said, hey, we see that you're out there playing golf. That must mean that your back's feeling pretty good. And he goes, yeah, my back does feel pretty good when I'm not getting banged around. And I think that's the big thing. I think that TJ Oshie in his everyday life is going to be okay. There might be flare-ups here and there, but nothing, compares quite to getting smashed around the ice with big NHL players. And what is some of the things that we know about TJ Oshie is that he plays much bigger than he is. He is the ultimate competitor. He'll take on some of the biggest guys out on the ice with no fear. And subsequently, those are sometimes the reasons that he has been injured. So, my thoughts on TJ Oshie and joining the LTIR, I'm happy for him. As TJ Oshie, the man, not the hockey player, and even the hockey player, I don't hold it against him, but I've said this on the show, and it's kind of the same thing I said about Nick Backstrom, is that he needs to worry about TJ Oshie, the man, the father, the husband, the young guy that still has a lot of his life left to live. I mean, you take a look at everything that he's been through, and this is his description of having to sleep on the floor because his back's so bad, having to urinate in a bottle because he doesn't want to get up and go to the bathroom. That it's not healthy living. I know that he's very wealthy, and I don't think money is going to be any issue. I know it's hard to walk away from something that you love. And, he has spoke often about how important sports in general are for him. It's been a big part of his life, his entire life. And to be a professional athlete, to get where he's at right now, to be a National Hockey League player and be in the league for quite a few years, when you add up his time with the Blues and the Capitals, quite an accomplishment. But kind of knowing the right moment to step away. And I know it was the Capitals medical staff that also factored into this, but it is the right decision to make. Even if, they left it up to Oshie and they're like, well, we think you're kind of on the fence. It's up to you. It's okay, Oshie. I just want you to know, from Capitals fans, we'll never forget what you've meant for this team. 2018, just being that elite playmaker, one of the guys, not just in hockey, but in my life in total, I've never seen a guy quite like that you'll never find anyone out there to say something bad about him. Whether it is, someone, a hockey fan that's not even from the Capitals, or fellow players, everyone loves TJ Oshie. His optimistic attitude, his happiness, that is why Tom Wilson said that he's as important in the locker room as he is on the ice. Definitely a heart and soul player for this team, and kind of the heartbeat. I know that that's Alex Ovechkin, but if there could be a second heartbeat, that would definitely be TJ Oshie. So a bit of a sad moment, I guess, for me as a Capitals fan and a TJ Oshie fan at the end of the day, that this probably spells the end of his time in the NHL. And let's not forget his many contributions. And this is just me kind of going ad-libbing here. I have a bunch of notes I put together, but I think it bears repeating that just one heck of a hockey player, a great man. I know you'll be successful at whatever you do in life after your hockey career, and I wish you the best. But that was the news. TJ Oshie placed on the long-term injured reserve. The Capitals have announced that forward TJ Oshie will be placed on the long-term injured reserve for the 24-25 season due to chronic back pain. This decision comes after Oshie underwent a medical examination which confirmed his injury status. We know he had that ablation procedure done that was just basically a Band-Aid. I think that we had higher hopes. I think that TJ Oshie had higher hopes that it would fix what ails him. Kind of with Backstrom, with that whole hip resurfacing thing. It's like a last-ditch effort that, hey, I'm struggling here and I really want to play. So this is my Hail Mary pass that hopefully it'll connect and it'll be okay. But as the case was with Nick Backstrom, is true with TJ Oshie as well. Father time is undefeated, and a lifetime or a long career of playing hockey and a long career playing NHL hockey has really shown what it can do to the body. So it's not an easy thing, and to walk away from the game that you love. But Oshie's statement, in a statement, Oshie expressed the challenges he faced during the previous season due to his back injury and his commitment to finding a long-term solution for his health. Despite his absence from the lineup, he remains dedicated to supporting his teammates and the organization. And I know he will. That is one of the things that Tom Wilson said that I spoke of there, that he's just as important in the locker room as that he is on the ice. Just that positive person in your life. If you have someone like that, if things are going well, if they're going poor, they're always there for you, optimistic, happy, pushing you forward. I think that exemplifies exactly what TJ Oshie is. But talking about team support, General Manager Chris Patrick emphasized the team support for Oshie as he works to address his reoccurring injury. Oshie has been a crucial member for the Caps, and the organization stands behind him as he navigates his health challenges. So, it is a tough break for the guy, but and I think that you listen to what former GM Brian McClellan said, that it's up to Oshie what he wants to do. He didn't want to push him into anything, that he wanted to leave the decision up to him, and I think that at the end of the day, that was the right thing to do. And I think it's the right decision to be made. But talking about Oshie's injury history, that's the big thing that kind of leads us to where we are at right now. Over the past few seasons, Oshie has grappled with various injuries, including ongoing back problems. Despite undergoing a double ablation procedure last summer, it provided only temporary relief. Oshie has expressed his desire to play in the upcoming season, but emphasized the need for a more permanent solution to his chronic back issues, which was something that the specialists were not able to provide. And I don't think they would. I mean, and that was one of the things that he talked about. And I think that he kind of knew, because when he was doing that interview with that podcast, that he kind of said, I'm doing pretty good. Life's pretty good when I'm not playing hockey. So I think that's the easy decision to make. But impact of Oshie's absence, the nickels and dimes and the cents and the millions of dollars entering the final season of his 8-year, $46 million contract with the Caps. Oshie's absence will be felt as the Capitals training camp commences. His resilience and dedication to the team were evident when he played through injury during the postseason, showcasing his commitment to the Capitals and the game of hockey. The ultimate competitor. He is the guy that said, what was it, a couple seasons ago already, that he's the ultimate competitor, even when it comes to his family. On Thanksgiving, he talked about playing football and basketball, and he said, when I'm wrestling my family members, and he kind of looked at the Capitals beat writers. He's like, what? You guys don't wrestle at your family get-togethers? So kind of his sense of humor, and just speaks volumes of what kind of person and athlete that he is. But Oshie's determination as the Capitals prepare for the upcoming seasons, Oshie's absence will undoubtedly create a void, but his determination to regain his health and support his team remains unwavering. So we take a look at it. A tip of the hat to a guy that did it really well and will definitely go down as one of the greatest Capitals to ever do it in total. Sometimes when you talk about these players, it's about their playing career. And, he was pretty good with a one-timer. He scored a lot of goals. He was the complete package. A great man, a great hockey player. The Capitals will definitely miss him in the future. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Spencer Carbery and his thoughts on the new Capitals, the additions made this offseason. How much better is this team, in his words? I'll discuss straight ahead. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. A pretty sweet deal, if I say so myself, from FanDuel. That if you are a fan of an out-of-market football team, well, it makes it that much easier with NFL Sunday Ticket, and that is why you need FanDuel and NFL Sunday Ticket. Then with YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So some big additions to this team made this past summer. We look at former GM Brian McClellan. I knew the Capitals were going to be busy, and he said as much, but sometimes it's just lip service, and that's what they say. But he was very busy, and he plugged a whole lot of holes in the lineup. And I think that on paper, the Capitals will be much better. Despite what a lot of the NHL talking heads say, despite what some of my other Locked On hosts think, I think the Capitals will be a better team. I'm not going to etch their name in the side of the Stanley Cup right now, but I think them, taking a look at them right now, that they have taken steps forward. Is PLD, is he going to be the guy that gets Ovechkin going? How much better is the Capitals blue line going to be with Chikrin and Matt Roy and the goalie tandem? All things go through net minding. If you have really poor net minding, it doesn't matter if you have the greatest goal scorer of all time if you got a leaky net. So the Capitals went out and they got Logan Thompson, and we have Charlie Lindgren, and down the depth chart, we know we have Hunter Shepard and Clay Stevenson on paper, as this is all sketched out before the first game. I think the Capitals are in a good position. And Spencer Carbery was on the radio show, The Sports Junkies, today, and he was enthusiastic about this upcoming season. Capitals revamped roster and head coach enthusiasm. Carbery, head coach of the Capitals, expressed his enthusiasm for the team's revamped roster during an interview with The Sports Junkies at the new Monumental Studios. The Capitals made significant changes in the offseason, adding 7 new players through trades and free agency, representing nearly a quarter of the roster turnover. Now, listen, it's, one of the things that I talk about all the time, and it's been mentioned for quite some time, is that this team is not going to face a major rebuild until after the Alex Ovechkin era. But you take a look at it, you don't need to blow it up to blow it up's sake. I think that if the Capitals are better this season, then you keep tinkering with it a little bit here and there. You have a lot of young talent in the wings, in the Hershey Bears. If you didn't know, back-to-back Calder Cup wins, that I think the talent is there, not to mention the prospects, the draft picks, that I think that, by the time Ovi hangs it up, the Capitals will be really good. I think they're going to be better this season, but definitely have made steps in the right direction. He talked about the arrival of Pierre-Luc Dubois and goaltender Logan Thompson. Carbery highlighted the arrival of center Pierre-Luc Dubois as a major move for the team. A reclamation project, make no mistake about it. He is that guy that had back-to-back 60-point seasons and just lost his way in the City of Angels. That is my assessment. Misutilized, underutilized. It was the GM, it was the head coach, it was the players. It was a mismatch. It was trying to fit a round peg in a square hole. Is there a match with the Capitals? That is our hope. Dubois, acquired from the Kings, is expected to take on a prominent role with the Capitals, potentially bringing significant impact, especially at the center position where top talents are hard to come by. These risky moves that were made. Now, listen, for one, first-line centers, good first-line centers don't grow on trees. And if the Capitals tried to go out for a top-tier marquee first-line center, well, undoubtedly, they would have had to gut prospects and the team a bit. And how much better would the Capitals be? How much better would you feel about the Capitals right now if they got that upper echelon first line center, that sexy name in the NHL, but they lost a McMichael, a Ltir, a Leonard, a Miroshnichenko? I wouldn't have liked that. The moves that Brian McClellan made were the right moves. And if they don't necessarily pay off, it's a work in progress. I think they will pan out. It just remains to be seen. Then talking about Logan Thompson, that bit of a head scratcher for me that makes a little bit more sense. Charlie Lindgren, really good last season, but just good last season. We don't have really a whole lot more of a bigger sample size. This season before that, he was really good in the month of December and not so much after that. So I think instead of pushing all your chips in on Charlie Lindgren, who had that one really great season, that you have a guy in Logan Thompson that if for some reason Charlie Lindgren falters, say he fails, there is an experienced option. Because you go down the depth chart, it's Hunter Shepard, who doesn't have a whole lot of NHL experience, a boatload of hockey experience through UMD all the way up to the Hershey Bears, and Clay Stevenson, who is going to be the long-term answer in net for the Capitals. Getting Logan Thompson, having Charlie Lindgren on the team in under $2 million, that is a win-win. An interesting storyline as both of them are entering into contract years. I think only one of them is going to get an extension. It is going to be interesting. The Capitals did secure goaltender Logan Thompson from the Golden Knights to bolster their goaltending depth. Carbery sees Thompson as a valuable addition, creating a strong goaltending tandem with Charlie Lindgren. Not a 1 and a number 2. It's more like a 1 and a 1A. And, you could say that's semantics or whatever, but I think the way the NHL is going, especially since they have a young coach, is it splitting the workload. It's not like what you heard years ago. You know, the ones, when it was Boudreaux here and these different older coaches, you got to ride the hot hand. You got to keep riding the hot hand, even if they're playing, 90% of the games, we're going with the hot hand. Well, what's the perils of doing that? If your team finds a way to make it to the playoffs, that netminder that was the hot hand all season is pretty gassed by the time it comes to the playoffs. Take a look at the Capitals in 2018, for example. Holtby, who was a brick wall in net, faltered a little bit towards the end. Thank God the Capitals had someone like Philip Grubauer to right the ship. And then we know that Holtby went back in, and then, the rest was a Cinderella Capitals story. So it's a good thing. Even though I didn't understand it at first, the more I mulled it over in my head and thought about it, it was the right decision to make. And you have really great options down from there. You take a look at it. You take a look at Hunter Shepard, a great option. Clay Stevenson, both of those guys spend time as the number one netminder in all of the AHL. So plenty of talent there. The Capitals are in a good position, and that is why Spencer Carbery is feeling confident about those additions. Wasn't just that, it was strengthening the defense, and it needed to be done. And you take a look at it, the Capitals did lose a player in Jensen, but they made some big acquisitions in the form of Chychrun and Matt Roy. And what are some of the things that we know? If you're an everydayer of the show, I spoke about that John Carlson routinely playing 25 to 30 minutes a night. That is not sustainable. So you take a look at it. Matt Roy is the guy that signed that long-term deal. He's going to alleviate a lot of that pressure from John Carlson. And you take a look at Chychrun, who's got that offensive flair as well, not just a stay-at-home defenseman, big pieces. And Spencer Carbery is excited about it as well. The team also focused on strengthening their defense by signing defenseman Matt Roy to a long-term contract and acquiring Chychrun. Chychrun in particular is expected to provide a significant offensive boost from the blue line, addressing the team's need for more scoring opportunities. Kind of the way Green was years ago. Mike Green was an excellent defenseman as well that had an offensive flair. It's good to have a blue liner that has a bit of an offensive flair. Now, don't get me wrong, the stay-at-home defensemen, they have their role as well. It's just kind of gives the opposing team some different looks. I ultimately like it. Talking about improving goal scoring and integration of new additions, Spencer Carbery is going to have his work cut out for him, but I think he's up for the task. He emphasized the importance of improving goal scoring for the upcoming season, acknowledging the team's need to control play, maintain offensive zone presence, and generate more shots to increase their scoring output. As we know, that is something the Capitals struggled with, and how some of my fellow Locked On hosts pointed to is why the Capitals won't do that well. Little do they know, this isn't last year's Capitals team. Despite the significant changes to the roster, the Capitals still rely on veteran players such as Carlson, Ovechkin, and Wilson, who are a part of that nucleus 2018 Stanley Cup triumph. Carbery aims to integrate the new additions with the existence core to elevate the team's performance for the upcoming season. So excitement abounds. It all starts tomorrow. The formal start of camp, and it's going to be fast forward from there. Then we're going to go right into preseason games, and the next thing you know, it'll be the puck drop for the first game of the season. There is a lot to be excited about, and that is why you need to subscribe or follow Locked On Capitals on your podcatcher of choice in YouTube, as I will have you guys covered all season long. All right, so coming up here after the break, we'll talk about Todd Nelson and his thoughts on some of the young Capitals players and prospects and what are their long-term plans. I'll discuss straight ahead. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And it's frustrating. Your favorite band comes to town, your favorite artist, singer, songwriter. Game Time makes it that much easier because oftentimes you can find it, but what is it going to look like from where I'm sitting? How am I going to see the stage? Those kind of things. That is why Game Time makes it that much easier. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, Create an account and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, welcome back into this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So excitement abounds as tomorrow is the formal start of training camp, or today, depends on when you're watching or listening this podcast, Thursday anyway. So it's exciting. And there is also excitement about the young Capitals players, some of which may join the team this year. It doesn't hurt to dream at the end of the day. But Todd Nelson was talking about the rookie camp. Recap, the Capitals rookie camp has concluded and players are now preparing for the upcoming training camp. Todd Nelson, the coach of the Bears, shared his insights on the rookie camp and discussed the progress of players from the last Calder Cup winning team. Listen, back-to-back Calder Cup winning teams, I think the proof's in the pudding. And you take a look at Todd Nelson. What's the long-term plan for him? I thought he was going to get scooped up by another NHL team, but we're happy to have him still on board. But talking about Nelson's insights, Nelson mentioned that all the players performed well during the rookie camp, with no one standing out significantly at this early stage. He emphasized the importance of getting the players up to speed and comfortable for the upcoming training camp, especially for those experiencing their first NHL training camp. And who am I talking about here? You take a look at these young players that are looking for more. I'm talking about Ethan Frank. I'm talking about Pierre Dubé. I'm talking about even Mirshnyshenko, and whoever else is looking for a bigger role. Like I've spoke of, Dylan McElrath is a guy that has some NHL and AHL experience. Hey, I think that would fit. He's a prototypical Capitals player. He is a defenseman with a physical flair. I like his game, but where would he fit in? That is the question. And talking about the camp format, in contrast to traditional prospect games, Nelson favored the camp format for focusing on developing professional habits and minimizing the risk of injuries that occur in highly competitive games. I think it was the right thing to do, that you're working on developing these players without risking them. I don't think that we want to risk these players needlessly. I think that we want to develop them. I think we want to get them for the start of the season, wherever they happen to be playing. If it's the AHL, the NHL, whatever the case might be, we want them healthy and ready to go. But one of the crown jewels, one of the bright players for the Capitals in years to come is going to be Andrew Crystal. And Nelson also highlighted the growth of forward Andrew Crystal, a second-round pick in the 2023 NHL draft, praising his improved skills and development as a professional player. And what are some of the things that we heard about him is that his skating was one of the biggest deficiencies. So he worked on skating and skating quickly. He's bulked up. He's put on the mass. I think that when we take a look at Crystal, I don't see him breaking camp with the team. I know that's the possibility. We know for sure that he can't play with the Bears this upcoming season. But it'd be interesting. And wouldn't that be one heck of a story to hear that he played so well, that he caught the attention of the players with his performance and the coaches, that he played so well that he found a spot on the Capitals roster? Wouldn't that be something? Is that going to be a reality? I'm a little skeptical on that. But there are players that very well might have a bigger role with the Capitals. Talking about previous championship team players, when discussing players from the previous championship winning team, Nelson expressed high hopes for Hendrik Ltir, even Mirshnyshenko, and Ethan Frank to continue their progress and make an impact on the upcoming training camp and beyond. So the hopes are set high for this Capitals team and the young players, as these are going to be the faces of the future and a lot to be excited about. Listen, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, your only daily year-round podcast covering the Washington Capitals. And I want to thank all of you that are watching this on YouTube or the audio side. You are what makes this show successful. All right, once again, I want to thank you for joining me on this edition of Locked On Capitals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Dan Holme, and I'll talk to you again next time.